where they became socially engineered. So there's a great deal of information that was being brought into this country regarding the effects of trauma on the human mind. It's well known that when trauma occurs, people become highly suggestible. When traumas occur in our society, such as what happened 9/11, many people in this country PTSD'd. They developed post-traumatic stress disorder. This PTSD left people unable to think clearly for themselves. They were very fearful. They were very emotionally distraught over what had happened. And when they're not able to think clearly for themselves, they're more easily led. So when they're told what to do by the television while those horrible images are played over and over and over again, they become compliant, they become apathetical, and they become so easily led that America began to lose some of its strength, to the point where the criminals that have been in control now for numerous generations took a significant step forward in their control.
Someone said, this is the Kennedy assassination here, something very true. When you're trying to understand who was behind an assassination, look at who had the power to remove the security at the crucial time. Because he said assassinations don't just happen, they are allowed to happen. And when you look at the footage taken on a camera, a video camera, by a member of the public when Rabin, the Israeli Prime Minister, was assassinated, it's extraordinary. You have the line of soldiers lined up to protect Rabin as he came to his car, and in among them is the guy who killed him. As Rabin appears on this video, extraordinary sight, the soldiers just walk backwards, leaving the assassin on his own. Rabin walks past him, thank you very much, good night. And it's the same with the Kennedy assassination and so many others. This is the point where Kennedy was hit. This is Kennedy's car at the front. There's nobody on it. And yet you look at the car behind, which doesn't carry the President of the United States, there's 4 security guards and 2 outriders. If they'd have been there, of course, Kennedy could not have been killed by a bullet from outside because he was so well protected. But the whole thing was removed, the security, to allow it to happen. During the last war in the concentration camps of Germany, in fact, way, way back this has been known about, but particularly during the last war, they started to perfect the manipulation of a natural mechanism in the mind that shuts out trauma. What they did was to understand that if you could systematically traumatize someone, their mind would shut out the memory of it and create an amnesic barrier, which would be disconnected from the rest of the mind. This is what happens when people have a major road accident and they can't remember what happened. It's because the amnesic barrier has been created to shut out trauma, so we don't keep reliving the horror. Good thing. But they realized that if you could do that systematically and start with children, particularly before the age of 5 and 6, you could turn their minds into a honeycomb of self-contained compartments, none of which was aware of the other's existence. And so through trigger words and what have you, and trigger sentences, hypnotic keys, one amnesic barrier becomes the conscious level. That experiences something or is programmed to do something, and then he's pushed back and another one's pulled forward. It's actually got to the point where, amazing as it may seem, you can be drunk in one compartment and completely sober in the other. Once the programming is in there, and in the biggest secret, I put incredible documentation and background to this and what happened, and trauma-based mind control and how it creates assassins and people going crazy with guns to justify taking guns out of circulation, all this stuff. When you look at the background, all that is necessary is to program the guy, push that programming back into the mind, and that will stay there at the subconscious level until some trigger comes in. When that trigger word or trigger action or whatever is said or done, that programming is activated. So you can be in normal mode and be very normal and no problem and nothing. Oh, I've never noticed anything different about old Henry that night. Trigger word, bang, programming, you're like a robot.
The drug trade is run by the intelligence agencies of every country, and that's to finance the weapons business.
And also to recycle money.
Okay, recycle.
The whole thing has to make a 360-degree turn in a way that that money will always end up clean
Right.
at the end of this whole transformation, you know, of this. So the weapon dealers are happy, the drug dealers are happy, the governments are happy because with the drugs they keep the people oppressed.
Mm-hmm. How involved is the Vatican with this whole drug trade, which is basically for the purpose of financing the purchasing of weapons?
Because the drug trade is supported by the CIA or by any other agency involved in it, being the Mossad, the MI6 or whatever. So they can go and finance those terrorist organizations that then create the strategy of tension that they require so they can implement their own police state and rule us by the stick. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Plus, as I said, the drug itself makes the person who is using it depending on something which supply is not guaranteed. So if, for example, in the future the government decides to truly close down those drug cartels and stop immediately and once and for all the possibility of these drugs being spread through your towns and through your cities, then at that point you will see a lot of people coming out in the street completely out of it because they are on a cold turkey situation and maybe they start shooting. And so definitely that would be one of the ways used by the powerful elite to instigate a revolution. Just stop the drug cartels and make all these people dependent on the white powder or any other drug get completely out of it. We have a lot of manipulation with drugs. For example, the Mossad is manipulating people with psy-trance music.
Right.
All these big festivals of trance music, Israeli trance they call it. And they have started this whole project by taking control of the drug scene in Goa, India, which was this mecca for all these people into this kind of alternative scene. And so they can brainwash them with fake religious ideals, because after they take a few of these acids and they start obviously coming into contact with these demonic forces that can easily make themselves present in their life, and even they can sometimes bring them back from their dimension with them and never get rid of them anymore.
So how involved are secret societies in the whole music industry?
Involvement of the secret society in the music industry is very important. Since the time of the establishment of certain lodges of Aleister Crowley in California, to the subsequent spread of the beat and then the hippie generation, and musicians like the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and many others who not only have been highly influenced by the satanic creed, but have sometimes openly embraced it, like the Rolling Stones, who have made even an album called At Her Satanic Majesty's Request. And in fact, Mick Jagger has been awarded after many years for his great work with the title of Sir Mick Jagger by the Queen herself, Her Satanic Majesty.
Wow.
So you know, you get even an award if you start, if you have sympathy for the devil.
But does this even reach into the hip hop music culture?
Yes. In the hip hop music culture, there is a lot of hip hoppers that are connected to Black Prince or Freemasonry. I'm myself somebody who followed the hip hop scene right at the beginning,
right,
when it was still genuine. But let's say by 1986 it had already been infiltrated by the feds, the intelligence operative of the CIA and all that, and it was used for propaganda reasons and for establishing also hatred towards the whites from the blacks, with the niggers with an attitude and all the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And after they started to politicize this whole gang phenomena, so they could use it for establishing this whole culture which has spread all over the world, not only in the United States, which is a culture of complete and utter dementia. I mean, it's all about the booty, how you shake your booty, about how many gold chains you have, how many cars you have, what kind of jacuzzi you have. These are all values of Satan himself. This is satanic. But we have a certain Freemasons, so Freemasonry that have been very important in this link between the gangs and the Masonic world.
Okay.
So between the illegitimate and the legitimate.
Right. Wow. That's really interesting.
And also for the use of symbolism that a lot of hip-hoppers have done, using the Illuminati symbolism for their own, for promoting their own act.
Like what symbol are you talking about? Can you show me with your hands?
It can be the $1 bill, or it can be the classic Masonic symbol of square and compass, or,
right.
or many others.
An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. Physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
Tonight's talk is consciousness, creativity, and the brain. And if you have a golf ball-sized consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball-sized understanding. When you look out, a golf ball-sized awareness. And when you wake up in the morning, a golf ball-sized wakefulness. But if you could expand that consciousness, then you read the book, more understanding. you look out, more awareness, and when you wake up, more wakefulness. It's consciousness. And there's an